Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Hi, hello. Welcome to part 2 of this random video series that I wanted to do, where I have been cracking open different ideas that have been picking at the back of my brain and basically brainstorming my way into the beginning of these stories. In the previous video, I described 3 separate projects that I was looking forward to working on. I gave you all their mood boards, and we dove into what I have been calling Project Glass. That one is cracking open this dystopian fantasy that has been living rent-free in my brain. Just editing the video alone made me realize a couple things more that I wanted to add into the story, and like it gave me an opening scene that I was kind of struggling with before. I didn't mention it in that video, but I was struggling with really pinning down an opening scene because usually, much like my ending scenes, my opening scenes have to be very vivid in my head and like have to really propel the story forward. I have my opening scene finally. I'm so excited. So that's awesome, that's fantastic. But in this video, we are going to be exploring project number 2, which I am calling Project Mummy, because this is a reimagining gender bent situation, very heavily inspired by the iconic bisexual masterpiece, The Mummy, you know, with Rick and Evie in the tombs and Imhotep and all this kind of stuff. I'm very excited to dive into this. I did explain a little bit of this story when I was introducing this video concept in the last video. If you have not seen that, don't worry. I'll explain more about it in this video, and we're actually gonna get into plotting it and brainstorming all the things in this video anyway, so stick around. I have my project idea notebook here. We're gonna dive in. I have cordoned off Project Glass. We are leaving that one to the wayside, and we are starting on Project Mummy. Now, I took everything that I found. I found a piece of paper in one of my other notebooks, ripped it out of said notebook, and transferred everything into this notebook of my original thoughts and ideas and plans, because this is one of the few projects that I have created that I haven't like gone into a notes app to explore more ideas in. I just started writing this 1 page of notes when I was rewatching The Mummy a number of months ago. That is what I transferred into this notebook so that I just have it all in one place, you know? So I transferred in the vague thoughts and ideas as I was watching said movie. I was writing down different plot elements, different quotes that I really enjoyed, that I was like kind of pulling at for like ideas on like how I could really make this a thing, you know? And I think the actual like brainstorming progress of this story specifically is going to be quite different from the brainstorming process of Project Glass. Why? Because Project Glass really, I came at it having a character already in my head from many years ago with Rose. And I knew I wanted dystopian, and so I started cracking open the systems of the world, what happened back, like that was our calamitous event, that kind of a thing, and going from there. And it was a mess, amalgamation of just a mess of brain things. And this one specifically, I'm going at this pretty much with a bare bones plot available to me, because I have The Mummy and like the plot of The Mummy to go off of. Obviously, I don't want to exactly copy it because that is plagiarism, and I want this story to be its own thing. I just want it to be heavily inspired by The Mummy, and I want the characters to give the vibes of Rick and Evie. That is what I'm going to go off of. But it's really interesting to go into a story with like a source material kind of backing me up for plot stuff, because then I can kind of go at this from a character point of view, which is what I have been doing so far with this one. So here's what on my first page. Here is what is on my first page. We have librarian meets hero adventurer. I've written down brother is their funder, would do anything for their sister, much like the brother in The Mummy. I wrote down like little things that happen in The Mummy that I was like, this is interesting, like breaks out treasure hunter to help bring them to mythical treasure ancient site, travel via boat or vehicle of some kind, and meet adversaries trying to meet the same goal. And then the quote of no harm ever came from reading a book, which I think is so funny. And then I wrote down like ruins, traps, stuck, scarabs, like different things that happen in the tomb. Then I did like an arrow from this idea down here to like say the adversaries, like the teams split up to search the dig site once they get there. There's a book found. They think it's one thing, but it's actually something very bad that unleashes some really bad shit which is our Imhotep figure. People start to die as this thing comes back to life, regenerating. And then I also wrote locals here saying like, you idiots released something we've been keeping trapped for centuries. And then they flee back to the main city. The brother wants to leave completely, but one of our characters wants his info. My librarian character wants his info and wants to help the people. And so does our adventuring character. She also really wants to help these people because they fucked up really hard. And then I also wrote down the man in dark robes is the OG red herring, because like the man in dark robes from The Mummy, who I cannot remember his name, he is an extremely sexy human being. This whole movie is just chef's chaos. They hired actors of the peak caliber. And I really like the idea of having these like locals who are also being kind of antagonistic and being like this original, like not necessarily red herring, but like also this original problem they need to solve. And then that person ending up being like actually a really important ally, you know? Like I love the idea of playing with more levels to characters and really fleshing that idea out. Anyways, so that is what was on my original thing. The other day, I was scrolling through Pinterest, as one does. I was looking at my Pinterest board for Project Mummy. I ended up going through the board of like more ideas because I love that Pinterest does that. It like curates more ideas for you to add to this Pinterest board. And I found a face claim for my two main characters. I mean, I did find a previous face claim for our male librarian, because our male librarian, his name is Isaac Sempronios. And Isaac Sempronios, I'm going to put a picture here of his face claim. I am so excited to write this because I literally wrote down on the second page, this spread here is what I have done so far with this book. I've written down Isaac Sempronios, librarian, scholar, lover boy. And then on the second page, I wrote down Florence Iverson, adventurer, sass monster, paladin-like. I seem to just be coming back to the idea of like paladin-like characters, but like lost paladin-like characters, which is very interesting to me. I've also then gone through and been like, okay, what do I know about these people just off like basic character info, you know? Isaac is the fifth son of his family. He's very overlooked. He's also overlooked in his job as a librarian and researcher. His boss doesn't even remember his name half the time. And he wants to prove himself. Like that is kind of like where our nest egg of a story is like beginning. He wants to prove himself and he gets this opportunity from his friend named August Iverson, who is Florence's brother. August Iverson and Isaac have been like kind of like two peas in a pod researching some shit, and August comes in one day and is like, bestie, I think I have proof, or like a way to get proof that this thing that we've been looking for is real. Kind of like in the Stardust Grail with our characters, this one by Yuma Kitase, with our characters believing in this mythical thing, the Stardust Grail, and then finding proof that it actually does exist. Kind of like that, you know? That kind of kicks us off, and August is like, hey, actually, we can go to this place and I'll like call my sister and she'll meet us there, because my sister is this like kind of badass adventurer lady, and she will help us find this place because she's also kind of like this explorer type person. I'm trying to pin her down a little bit. Like I explained in my previous video about my writing and how my brainstorming and stuff, for some reason, whenever I have two main characters, which is a lot, I have a lot of two main characters. One of them, very easy to crack. They live in my head very, very, like, just immediately. I can just start pulling at the threads and they tumble out fully formed. And then a second character is like cracking into stone. It takes me so long to like pin down who this person is, their vibe, their goals, their dreams. I have a very vague notion for Florence, which this is backwards. Usually the women in my stories are the ones that I have immediate in my head, and then the men are less so. But this is back. Isaac is living in my head, fully formed. I understand him so deeply already. And then Florence is just kind of this fog in my head, which is very interesting. Anyways, we got Flo and we got Isaac. And I'm very excited to kind of dig into them so far. So we have August Iverson, who is Flo's older brother. Flo and August are from this like very, very rich family, but they basically cut her out of the will because she is very aimless and doesn't have like a goal or a purpose in life, where August does. So August holds the purse strings. But because both of their parents are deceased due to something, I'm thinking some sort of accident, he is like, well, I'm going to support my sister because I love her. I'm not going to just let her be high and dry. So I'm going to use my money to like support her within restraint. So he is like, I'm gonna use my money to fund this little trip, this little excursion into these ruins. Now, one of the things that I was thinking about when I was creating this was, or creating this original and like working on this original thing, do I want to set this in my already established fantasy world, because this is going to be a fantasy situation, or do I want to create a new world for this specifically? And as I was digging into these two characters and like writing things down, I noticed immediately that I did not want either of them to have magic powers. Like, I didn't want either of them to be magical beings of any kind, but I did want magic to be there in a very low capacity. And then I was like, oh, okay, immediately, this is not my world. Like, Ravar, if you've read my fucking cozy fantasies, Ravar is an extremely magical place. There is magic everywhere. People just have magic in their blood. They like are performing cantrips and spells and whatever, right? It's a very magical place. And so this world immediately felt very like, the further you go into history and the depths of the earth, the more magical things become. But in the modern world, magic is very hard to find. People don't really use it anymore. And it is very rooted in the language of what this world used to run on. Like, a lot of the old languages that are no longer spoken, that is where magic lives. In the written word, in all these like ruins and symbols and language etched into walls of these ruins. So in my head, I'm like, okay, great. This is another fantasy world that I have to fucking create. So that's going to be interesting and fun to do. The next steps I kind of want to figure out are like adversaries, like those kind of characters. And I also want to figure out like the institution of the library that Isaac is from. And I want to figure out Florence more, obviously. And then I think from there, I'm going to start figuring out like what Isaac was studying with August, and also like what the lore of this world is. What is the lore of this specific place they're going to? What kind of thing could they be researching that is believed to be mythical but ends up being real in like a way that they don't anticipate? All that kind of stuff. Like, that is what I'm going to be digging into next, you know, with this story. So I kind of want to like do like the mythology situation. It's going to be a very deserty place. It's going to be very inspired by Egypt, but it's also going to be somewhere very different. Like, it's going to be entirely otherworldly. I'm thinking of like when I mentioned travel via boat or some kind of vehicle, I'm like, what if it's like a really fucking big monster creature that people have like established to use as like horses, but like really big, like almost blimp size things that are crossing the desert so they can cross the desert really fast. Like, what kind of a world can I build from that, right? So that's where I'm at with Project Mummy. I am so excited to dive into this world. I'm so excited to make this a fantasy romance. I have the two vibes of my characters. Isaac is tall, kind of bony, and a little clumsy. He blushes really easily. He's a lover boy. He is such a fuck-ass nerd. It hurts. Like, he gets lost in a book, and he, like Evie from The Mummy, doesn't really notice danger if it means he's gonna get the information he wants, you know? And then we have Florence, who is, in my head, I was like building this character originally, and I was like, oh my god, she's becoming such a butch. I love that, but also I wanted a character that wasn't just like traditionally butch and strong and muscle mommy just because of her adventurer title. I wanted someone that was still soft and feminine and like someone who's curvy and like is so strong, but is also like, when you look at her, you might not necessarily see the strength there because she is curvy first and like very womanly and very feminine, and like, yeah, she's feminine in some ways, and yeah, she's extremely masculine in other ways, but like, I want her to be like a fully fleshed out character, not just a caricature of someone who is an adventurer and like is this muscle mommy, you know? Like, yeah, she's gonna be a muscle mommy because she's incredibly good with a sword and a revolver, but like, also, I say revolver. Is there even gonna be a revolver in this world? Because like, I have to then figure out guns and gunpowder and that whole thing. World building questions for me to end up exploring a little later. But yeah, that's where we're starting with this one. And my mood board, of course. We're starting with the mummy at the root of it. My want to, like, no matter what, at the end of this, I want Isaac and Flo to feel like Evie and Rick. That is #1 goal. I want this book to feel like you're watching The Mummy. Like, I just read recently Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Pornick, which feels like a crazy amount like watching Howl's Moving Castle. Like, the vibe between the two characters in Where the Dark Stands Still is Sophie and Howl. And I want that for my book with the Mummy. You know, like, I don't want it to be this book where I like hype it up and compare it to the Mummy and all that kind of stuff, and people read it and go, that wasn't them at all. I don't want that. I want it to be legitimate, you know? Anyways, also, this is Flo. This is her face card. But like this, but curvy. Like, I couldn't find the right picture, but like her, but curvy. You know, because this woman is very like slim, you know? This, but curvy. Like, add some roundness to her cheeks and stuff like that. Anyways, that is where we are. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited. I want banter galore. I want interesting lore. I want the magic to matter in this world. I want the language to be interesting. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to come up with a fucking language. That's not what I wanted to do, but hey, we're here. Shit. Shit. Coming up with a language fucking sucks, my guys. This is the one thing. There's a lot of little things about world building and like creating a story that I absolutely eat up. And then there's a lot of things that I'm just like, oh, I really don't want to do that. And I want to like find a scapegoat way to get around it. But like, because I'm tying the magic into language, I'm going to have to figure out the language. Shit. Oh no. Well, we'll get there when we get there. But yes, I've been talking for 20 minutes. I can't even say welcome to this video anymore. But like, let's see what happens next. Hello friends, it's been a second since I've last talked to you, but I'm coming in with an update on Project Mummy. Fun updates, good updates. So last we talked, we were just setting up this whole situation, right? I introduced you basically to my two characters, and I didn't have much more than that, other than just a general idea of how I wanted this to go. And since then, just, I don't know what it is about this one. What it was like with Project Glass, that one was itching at my brain to come out and like poured out of me in different instances. This one I almost have to like purposefully go to the idea and pull threads for it to do anything. It's not doing much for me as an active idea, but we're getting there. So I have more vibes of my two characters. I have some vibes about the magic itself in this world. So I have Flo and I have Isaac. What I did is I was just kind of going into Pinterest and into TikTok and all this kind of stuff. I just typed in the Mummy just to see what would come up. And I was seeing a lot of like text posts and stuff like that about what people love about the movie, what like really like just worked so fucking well about the 1999 movie. And it was just why it's such a perfect movie and all this kind of stuff. So I was taking like kind of interest from that and all that kind of stuff. And I started writing a list of like people I need and then elements I need. And I think I was just kind of doing that, not as like I'm making this a direct copy of the Mummy, but I want to take a lot of inspiration from it, obviously. And I want to make sure that I'm getting the heart of this movie and the essence and the vibe of it, you know? So I've got a list of people, like different lists of characters that I want to, you know, pull in. Potentially some ideas of like who could be moving around in this book. I have also elements I need. And so, like, things that I want to include in this story to make it feel like the Mummy. So what I did is I, like, went through myself once I was, like, pulling from the internet and all that kind of stuff. And I went through and wrote down a bunch of different elements that I want to make sure I have in this book. So we have horror elements, of course. We have Rick and Evie moments and vibes and the chemistry. That is the biggest thing. And then I wrote down, like, it's all about love. Like, at the heart of the Mummy, even with Imhotep and his like whole shtick is that he loves Anck-su-namun so fucking much that he literally wants to resurrect her and was fucking killed so brutally for the love, you know? And so it's like it's separated by time and this curse and this awful way that he died. And then I was just like, okay, so really at the heart of this, it's got to be something again about love. And then that spurned me on into thinking about the town and the village and the locals around of this world of like, what is like, why are they there? What have they been hiding? All this kind of stuff. And then that spun me into what actually happened. And then I have pulled like a very bare bones of like, okay, so who's our Imhotep character, what happened back then, and why are they coming back to life, kind of a thing. So I don't really have the why they're coming back to life yet, but I do have a little bit of that backstory, which I think is really interesting, and it's different from the Mummy. I don't want to make it an exact copy, as I keep saying. And I want to make sure that whatever's going on in this backstory, it's going to center around a woman instead of a man, and something that happened to her. And it's going to be this moment of like, history turned her into a villain for what happened to her. And it was just this moment of like, she just got shat on by the world, and like people were trying to take her throne and all this kind of stuff. And so I want to give her like agency in this, because a lot of what I was opening, I also watched The Mummy tonight. So I was like taking notes as I was watching it. So a lot of the opening scene of The Mummy is Imhotep fucking he just wants to love this woman. He wants to be able to resurrect her. And then he gets put in these situations that he like, because of his actions, he gets fucking killed, right? So in that, he doesn't have a lot of agency in the choice of his death, right? I want to make sure that this woman has choices. I want to make sure that she's awesome. And I'm kind of thinking along the lines of like, oh God, it's been so many years since I've read this book, but Furyborn by Claire Legrand. One of the opening scenes of one of our main characters is this really intense birthing scene. And I don't know, like it has no relevance to what I have in mind for this, but just the way that it was presented, I really liked that. And I liked having the character have like agency and stuff like that. Anyways, so it kind of pulled things for me for that, which is awesome. So we have a little bit about the locals. I still need to dig into the world. I need to build the world. I need to also come up with a fucking magic system for this, which is gonna require me to create a language, and I've never done that with a book before. That scares me. So I don't know if I will do that in this video, but it is something that I would have to do before writing the book. But I don't know if I need that for like an outline, because it's like the intricacies of language, right? I don't need the intricacies of the language. I just need to know what things mean and like what scenes are happening for like the outline, which is what the point of this video is. I will eventually, when I actually write this book, have to create a language system for the magic, which is something, and I'm gonna have to do my research on that. So maybe a future video of me figuring out how to create language and a magic system and all that kind of stuff. But what I really want to do is I want to flesh out this world. I want to really dig into the lore, because one of the things about The Mummy is that the lore, even though it is incorrect, it probably drives Egyptologists so fucking batty that it is so wrong. It does also really care about the lore that this movie is building, and it cares a lot about the ancient world as well. And we learn a lot in the movie of The Mummy that is actually legit. And a lot of the things that they're doing, like one of the biggest things is that it takes the time to show us different things that were actually legit. Like the mirror thing that Evie does, that's a thing. That is a thing. Like that is like, it takes the time to show, one, how brilliant Evie is, and two, some of these really interesting pieces of ancient history that made it into this movie that it deeply cares about, and it like makes it so real. And I think that is really what I want to aim for in this. I want to make this world feel real and lived in. So that's going to be a huge chunk of my time is to like actually flesh this shit out. I want to make a map. I want to build the world. I want to come up with the lore of the world. And I want to come up with how that attaches to the magic system and the language and all that kind of stuff. And then how we got to where we are now in the history of this world, where we are in this history, like with guns and ammo. Because I don't know if I want to include guns and ammo, but it also feels right to include guns and ammo. But like, how did we get there? You know, so it's all these questions. It's all these questions that I got to think about myself. Anyway, so that's what, you know, elements I need. This list spun me off on that whole shebang. Come back to that list. Other little scenes that I want to include, like some kind of, I love this scene where Evie is just absolutely drunk off her top and she's like, I'm a librarian. I love that scene so much. So I want a scene kind of similar to it. And then we also have like the scene where Rick and Evie are fighting in the room after they've awoken Imhotep and done this thing. And she's like, we have to stay and fix this. And he's like, absolutely not. We are getting out of here. It's not safe. I want a scene like that. But I've twisted it a little bit to fit my characters a little bit more, because of course this book is a gender-bent mummy. So Florence is my adventurer and Isaac is my librarian researcher. And then I've also highlighted yearning glances, because of course I did. And then I wrote the curses upon the locals and the world once the thing is uncovered. So I do want to have like a direct kind of curse type of situation like the movie has. Again, another scene that I've like twisted a little bit just to make it more apt for this. And then I asked on TikTok, I put up a TikTok, I was like, what do you love about this movie? What is the best thing about this movie other than Rick and Evie? I'm sorry about my hair, it's kicked on again. And a lot of people were just like, first of all, the banter, and then the balance of horror and fun in this movie is another big thing. And then the biggest thing that people love is the respect that Rick and Evie have for one another, because it's like they have these moments of like, no one is really truly in charge in this movie, because there are some moments where Evie, especially just like when there's like the fight over the base of Anubis excavation between the Americans and them, Evie figures something out and she's like, there's other places to dig. Rick never fights back. He's like, cool, we're gonna, yeah, like he never says anything. He's just like, okay. And like he goes along with it without questioning things because he knows that she is the expert in this field. And I really like that each of them kind of bow to the other when their skill set is better. Like they work so well together as a team and they genuinely respect one another and they learn from one another, which I really, really love. So I want to really make sure that that comes into play. No one in this group tries to take lead. That is the biggest thing, is I don't want someone to be the leader. I want them to genuinely respect each other's dynamic. Even if we have like tension and whatever, I think that is genuinely what is so good about The Mummy, is that Evie is never belittled for her being a woman by O'Connell. There's other people in this movie that belittle her for being a woman, but like genuinely she's given space for being so intelligent and having all these ideas and doing all these things. And then even her brother is given space for some stuff. And like after watching it again and after looking up a bunch of stuff on it, like yes, he's the comic relief, but he's also like a very complex character. Like he was in the war. There's a lot of one-liners that he has with O'Connell that it just like suggests this really intense backstory that he has. And he's a perfect shot, and it's just like, oh, this man was in the war. Like he was in the cold, like like he's not okay. He's going through PTSD. Like he's not well. Yes, he's the comedic relief, but he's a very intense character. So seeing little things like that, I just love this movie so much. And I had such a great time rewatching it today. And again, I love rewatching it and like coming up with different ideas. So that's what I did tonight. I rewatched the movie and I like, especially the opening and like the whole situation with Imhotep and Anck-su-namun and like their whole shtick. Like I really want whatever lore that this story originally has like come up with. I really want to dig into that and the sincerity of it and like what that actually means, like what story actually happened, and then what history believes and like what twisted and like all that kind of stuff. Why the ruins are there, what that place actually is, because I'm not entirely sure. Like I know in the movie Hamunaptra is the city of the dead, which like sure, I could make it the City of the Dead, but I could also make it something entirely different. Like, could it be an ancient burial site? Could it be an ancient research lab? Like, what are these ruins? I gotta figure that out. And what do they mean to the people and like the curses and like what went down right there that they unlock, that my characters have to come in and unlock? What kind of shit do they disturb? Like I just have so many questions that I need to answer. And I think rewatching the movie has definitely helped unlock a bunch of shit, because I was coming up with different things and I was writing down different quotes that I really, really like just looking for the reasoning for Rick being in jail. It's just looking for a good time. Like there really isn't a reason that he's in jail, and he doesn't really get a reason for why he's going to be hanged. Like there just isn't, like he's never his crime is never really revealed, which I think is funny. So that leaves it open to interpretation. Like, why has he been in jail for so long? Why is his hair so long? Blah, blah, blah. And then I love the line, "You know your history, I know my treasure." I love that line so deeply. And then there's also the Benny guy, the little weasel fucker, who like sways allegiances at the slightest chance. And I really like the line that he says, "It's better to be at the right hand of the devil than in his path. I'm immune to him when I'm like helping him," you know? I really like that. And then of course, our beautiful man in black, I never remember his name. His name is, I don't think, ever said in the first movie, and it's said in the second movie that I was watching, and I can't remember what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I think it starts with an A. But he says, "Live today, fight tomorrow." Also, that man, way too fucking attractive. That movie hurts. I am so excited to play with my version of that character and that figure and stuff like that. But really what I want to do from now on, like from this point, that I like this, whatever this is, it is so close to The Mummy. What I want to do is I want to take all these questions, all these possibilities, and now that I've gone back and kind of like looked at the structure of the movie and rewatched it, kind of seen how things go, like the important key moments in it, I want to take all this information and I want to now go forth, ask myself all these questions and try figure shit out. Build the lore, build the world building, work with my characters more to find their more motivations. Like I have their base motivations and their general wants. Like I know who Flo is, I know who August is, and I know who Isaac is. The trio basically. And now I need to build on the other characters. So I need to build the locals. I need to build the Man in Black character. I need to build, you know, the rivals and all that kind of stuff. And I need to really, truly start crafting the story to be its own thing. But I still want it to be very inspired and heavily on the vibes of The Mummy. You know, I need to find that sweet spot. But really, what I want to do from here is just start asking myself these questions and like pulling at the threads. This one is very interesting to me, the Project Mummy, because Project Glass, which was my dystopian, just like it poured from me. I was getting inspiration from the Bone Season as I was reading it by Samantha Shannon, and just like whatever it was, it just kept pouring from me from whatever abyss my brain was in. And this one, it's kind of a different side of like how I brainstorm my ideas, because it's me asking myself questions to pull these threads and to try and dig deeper. It's also completely different from anything else I've ever done, because I'm coming at this with a source material and like a structure of a story that I can play with now. Like basically, I have an outline basically, if I just go off of what The Mummy is, but I want to really crack this world open, and I want the lore and the world to just be so vivid and wonderful. And then something that my characters can play in, you know? And then once we actually get to writing the book, that's when I can really make sure the vibes are right between my Evie and Rick characters. That's when I can really make sure that it feels like The Mummy and vibe-wise. But like, I'm having so much fun just like thinking about this one now. And it took me a second, and I think rewatching the movie really helped. So love that for me. I'm having a great time. That's the update on Project Mummy. What I need to do is ask myself questions. I need to pull at the story thread. I need to give myself a purpose of this story. I need to not just base it off of The Mummy, you know? I need to now think on my own for it and build it into something that really fucking works. And I'm so excited about that. But anyways, that is my update on Isaac and Flo and Project Mummy. I'll come back when I got more. Oh my god, hey friends. It is officially October, my guys. And I think I'm kind of tapped out on this project. Now, I have not done all that I wanted to do and all that I was planning to do in the last clip. What I have done is I've written down just brain dump of 3 pages, which is not a lot considering, of like what I want this book to start with, like plot wise and like character beats and stuff like that. And I've come to the realization that I think this book is going to be one that I need to explore as I'm writing it, which is very interesting to me. It's weird. It's so weird. Every once in a while I come across projects like this. It's just like, not even like this. It's just ideas that sometimes like latch onto me so hard. And I'm like, yeah, that would be so super exciting. And then they just leave. And I have no push or will to do them. Like, this book is so fun, and I would love to get to write it someday, and I would love to work on it in maybe 2026. But Project Glass ate away at my brain, and it still kind of does. Like, it pops up every now and then and rears its little head. And I'm just like, I need you to get your head out of, I need to get you out of my head. But it hasn't done that in a little bit. My brain has instead switched to, I want to be done planning Project Mummies because it's October now. I want to be back in Sage's story. So tonight, because I've been feeling that way, and there's been nothing like brewing in me for the story, really, I feel like it's because it is based off of something that is like a given plot, right? Obviously, I'm not going to make it a cut and paste from The Mummy when I do write it, but right now, my brain is like, okay, like we have a plot to follow. Like we don't need to really think about this. And I'm like, well, I do need to think about it a little bit. I need to think about the lore. I need to think about this kind of stuff. But I've kind of tapped where I want to be with this project right now. Like I don't want to delve any deeper into it, because if I do, I want to actually be writing it at the same time as I'm like researching bits and creating bits. I feel like this is going to be a first for me in my like more modern and current writing career, because I used to be a little bit more of a discovery writer when I was a kid. When I'm literally a kid. When I was a kid, I would like discovery write everything. And now I'm much more of a heavy plotter, but I feel like this project is going to be one that surprises me. And I'm just going to go off of the vibes of what's going on. I know the general direction. I know twists and turns and pops and starts in this one. And I know a vibe of like the piece of the world that I'm going to work with, but I feel like this is going to be one of those stories that just starts to be built as I write it and as I work on the story itself and like start fleshing out the characters and like actually writing the scenes and finding out their voices and stuff like that. And I think I can do that now because tonight I sat down and I wrote down, as I said, like 3 pages of just brain dump essentially of just how I want this book to go. So we're going to start with Flo. We're going to start with Florence. Actually, we're not going to start with Florence. The prologue is going to be the lore drop. Like, you know how The Mummy opens up with the first like the first opening scene of The Mummy, the cold open, is Imhotep and Anuk-Sun-Namun and like their whole shit and like that lore, right? I want to open up with something akin to that. I want to have it be like the back story, real far back. I've also discovered another thing about that woman that I'm going to be working with, because that, like, the figure that I want to bring back is not like a male Imhotep figure. It is this woman who in my head is this brilliant like Cleopatra like figure who was so amazing at what she was doing at the time. And like as I was writing this shit today, I realized that I also want her to be like the person who birthed this kind of magic into the world. Like she was the one who brought it into being with the written word and all this kind of stuff, like the etchings and things. She is the pioneer of that. And I want this to be, instead of like the City of the Dead, which is Hamunaptra in The Mummy, I want like whatever site, whatever ruins they go find, to be believed to be her burial site, her like this mythological level burial site, because she is such a like mythological figure at this point in research and academia. Like she isn't even believed to be real at this point, but she has been so villainized by history and all this kind of stuff, and like put, just like her story's been twisted and she's just been belittled to this point where like no one actually believes that she is who she was. A lot of the shit that happened around her was belittled to the point of her sex life. It's going to be really interesting with that. So a lot of the lore that they're going to find out in this, in these ruins and all that kind of stuff, is going to be around her and her life and like realizing these real things and being, and my 2 little scholar fuckers being like, oh my god, we're finding out shit about this woman that we've like genuinely believed in and everyone thought we were fucking crazy, and you know, all this kind of stuff. So I think it's gonna be really fun to really dig into her life. I think she's gonna be so cool. Maybe we're gonna get to a point where we actually kind of like bring her into the narrative a little bit more. Like we have some scenes from her. I don't know. Could be interesting. Maybe. That's something I'll figure out when I start writing this. But yeah, we're gonna start with that, like a prologue with like the setup, and then like maybe not even like the full thing, just like here's the final scene of her life kind of a thing. Like I said previously, I think I wanted to do like the Furyborn scene, where it's like that opening scene of Furyborn is this queen giving birth, and it's this very big moment, right? It's like a very pinnacle moment. I want that to be the opening moment of this, I think. Then we're gonna start with Flo. The actual narrative is gonna start with Florence, who has become a soldier and has been a soldier for the past couple of years since her parents passed away. And she is at her heart a fucking treasure hunter, but she disappointed. Like her parents were like, Flo, like you got to get your life together, all this kind of stuff. You can't just be this person running around trying to find all this treasure, blah blah blah. She's so convinced that they were like so super disappointed in her. And then the night that they die, that's the day that she was going to tell them that she got accepted into like the army and like that kind of thing. So she's going to be a soldier. She's going to be like so stuck in this, and there's going to be a reason why she gets out of it, because she's also like, she's not the most careful person, so she does get in a lot of shit all the time, and then she's on her last like trial or whatever. I don't know. Something's gonna go wrong, and she's gonna end up getting kicked out of the army. But anyways, this opening scene with Flo is gonna be her army, her contingent, whatever the words are. I gotta do research. Basically getting ambushed on their way to somewhere new, and they get pushed off track. And where they get pushed is this old ruin that, as they're fighting, they realize that the people who are fighting them are retreating, even though they're like definitely like the people who are fighting them are on the upper hand, and like their contingent most definitely is not. But they retreat, and they're like, what the fuck? Okay, cool, all right, awesome, weird, what the fuck? And then Flo and her buddies on this contingent, not really her buddies, just like people she's around, they start exploring the ruins a little bit, because like what else are they gonna fucking do? They're gonna leave in the morning. As they're doing so, Flo finds, like they find this like room, and there's all like, they kind of break into this tomb like thing, and they find this room just full of inscriptions and beautiful carved metal and stone, and it's like this just bafflingly like, you know the lore of the bronze room? Is it bronze? Is it the jade room? Is it You know that one room that like went missing during Nazi Germany and like people, they made like a replica of it? I think it's a bronze room. But like, you know, the awe of walking into something like that. They find a room like this. And Flo is like, ah, shit, my brother would fucking be so mad knowing that I'm here right now because he's this little scholar guy. And she's just like, well, I'm here. I gotta like take proof home that I'm here. And so she like takes parchment and like starts making an etching of something that looks kind of cool to her. She ends up like shipping that back home to her brother because she's like, guess where I was, bitch. Like kind of as a like hee hee hee. And then we like kind of move over to Isaac. He's our librarian. He's our fuck ass nerd, you know? Isaac, I don't quite know what the scene's gonna look like yet, but I just know whatever his shit is gonna do, it's gonna set up the fact that he's trying to do his job and do well at his job, and he can do his job very well, but his boss just like fucking doesn't even know his name. Something goes wrong, he gets blamed, and he's basically called like the wrong name, and he's like, what the fuck am I even doing here? Like, what the fuck, right? And then August comes in and they have, August is Flo's brother. August comes in and it like establishes both their working and their friendship relationship. Eventually, I don't know how we're gonna get there, but August then comes in breathless running and he's like, look what my fucking sister sent me. It's proof that like what we've been researching and trying to find forever is real. And it's like all this kind of stuff. And then somehow they get to this point where August enlists his sister. He's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get my sister to like help guide us to where this is because she knows where it is because she was there. Like, we're gonna get her to take us to this place. We're gonna go on a little excavation adventure. And Isaac is like, great, actually, this might actually get me some leverage with my boss. So sure, why not? And then I don't know how Flo is gonna get in trouble. She can get kicked out of the army, kicked out of her contingent, she's get, you know, banished or whatever. I don't know, I gotta do the research for like words and terms and stuff. And then August and Isaac end up finding her in this jail and they break her out. I like the scene I have in my head is that she's super drunk and she's just like, my little brother, what are you doing here? Like kind of stuff like that. I have now, like from this moment on, I have like snapshots of like what I want to happen. Like I want to have these specific scenes that I've thought up. I have like, I know the shape of the world. In the middle of the night, I got an idea of like the island shape with like the mainland, and then this is all desert and this is all desert, and like the ruins are like here and it's like super impassable for some fucking reason. I got this idea at some point. So like I have a little bit of the world there. And then from there I just have like, okay, they're gonna get on some funky ass animals. It's gonna like be good world building. We gotta create the world a little bit, make it more contextual, make it feel more real. And then they're gonna get on a boat. And as they're making these passages, like that's when they're gonna meet the Americans from the Mummy, right? They're gonna meet the other team. And one of the members from that team is gonna be somebody that Flo fought with. Is gonna be like a soldier buddy. He's actually kind of a dick. So, or maybe it'll be a woman, because that'll be a little bit more sexy. Because bisexual queen, why not? Who's to say? This other team is convinced there's treasure there. But the two boys, they just want to be there for academia's purposes. Learning shit, discovering this place. And then Flo is like, actually treasure though? I could do with some treasure. And it's like this old calling to her past life that like actually gave her heart life. Calling her back to this. She is basically their bodyguard at this point. They uncover secret rooms and they uncover that it's actually a laboratory that was there, and they uncover more lore about this woman, and they also accidentally release her spirit and some curses on the land. They meet the locals are kind of antagonistic, and then they retreat when it becomes too dangerous. There's replanning, reshifting, people start dying, shit's happening, the curses are happening. They get separated somehow. There's a rescue, there's danger, there's death, and then there's epic puzzle solving and academia. And then there's putting together more lore about this beautiful, wonderful woman from the past. They fix everything. They right the wrongs of the past. In this moment, this one misunderstanding that this woman has that like fuels this negativity and fuels this curse because she believes this so fully, but when they like prove it that it's wrong, she's like, oh wait, actually, I don't want to kill everybody. I could just go hang out in heaven with my boys, with my lovers. Then everything's fine and wonderful, and there's a big epic kiss scene at the end. I'm excited. Like, I want this to be a romantasy. I want this to be more romance forward than The Mummy is, but I want that balance of tone between a rom-com horror fantasy vibe. Like, The Mummy is so perfect because it just does something with this genre breaking bullshit it's got going on. It's so fun, but like the horror elements are so good mixed in with the comedy. I think comedy and horror go so perfectly together. I love them so much. So this is gonna be a really fun book to like just play with. And I want it to be more romance heavy. I don't want that end kiss to be the biggest kiss and the only kiss of the whole thing. Like, I want them to be very much into each other earlier than that. So, but like, play with that tension, play with that banter, play like up the flirting a little, and like maybe they get it on in one of the old rooms of bronze, you know? I don't know. Something. But yeah, so that is where I'm at with this story. I have the aesthetic, I have the trajectory, I have the idea of the plots. This is so much less figured out than Project Glass is, but I feel like I've come to a point where I'm like, yeah, I could start writing this now. Like, I could start actually exploring scenes and figuring out the world and like diving into this head on by like being in it and writing it, you know? So yeah, I don't know what this is gonna be crossed with. Like, The Mummy is obviously my biggest comp, but I don't know. Like, I want to find something else to pull in as well. Like, I don't want it to just be The Mummy as its thing. I want it to be more complex. I want it to be interesting. I want the story to have its own legs. I don't want it to just be standing on The Mummy. But, like, right now in the planning stage, that's all I got. And that's all I really want to have at this point. I'm excited about this for its own little reason. I'm excited to see where that goes eventually. I have like zero world building done. I got some lore, I got some ideas of lore, and that's okay. Because sometimes we, as writers, are coming across ideas that we're like so super into and have to figure out every single little moment of, like I was doing with Project Glass. And then sometimes we just come across a project that's just vibes. And then I'm just like, you know what, vibes. I could sit down and start writing this and like explore it with exploration. Like, it's literally so tiny compared to all of Project Glass. Like, this is nothing compared to this. That's so funny. But that's all I need sometimes. And this is kind of how my brain works, which is interesting. I like that we've done something different with both Project Glass and Project Mummy now. Project Glass was such an interesting development of like pulling on a thread and then, oh shit, everything is falling out, you know? It's just like, oh my God, everything is happening. And then Project Mummy, I'm just like, yeah, like this is a cool idea. I want to work on it more when I'm actually dedicating time to writing this story. And I think that's going to be the fun part of this for me, is discovering where I want to go with this story, discovering what happens in this story, discovering the scenes, the banter, the voices of my characters, all that kind of stuff. So, wait, hold on. I know I look like absolute ass today, but I'm not going to be the one you're going to be looking at for a while. Before we end this video, my friends, we are going to go over the Pinterest board. Because I did that for Project Glass, so might as well do it for Project Mummy as well. Right? Right. Let me pull up. Oh my God, hold on. Oh, my Pinterest board looks so nice right now. Oh my God. Holy shit. Let's go. Also, if you see any AI photos in this, that is not my doing. I regularly go through my Pinterest boards for my like book inspiration and cull everything that's been like AI modified in the corner, because Pinterest has been overrun by AI. I hate it so much. Anyways, this is my Project Mummy board. I am so happy with it. These are the vibes, these are the characters, these are the inspirations, these are text posts that I found about the mummy. These are, of course, my character face claims. So, of course, we have Isaac here, and we have Flo here, and we have August, Flo's brother. That's the first time you're gonna get to see him. I love him. We have different, like, vibe-wise of characters that I want to kind of include. I don't know. And then a bunch of different text posts. I love text posts so much. And I also have realized that I think my other like comp for this project is going to be Atlantis, like Disney's Atlantis, hence them in the corner. I gotta rewatch that movie. It has been more like decades since I've seen that movie at this point. Like, it's been a hot second since I've seen Atlantis. I need to watch it again and see if that sparks any creativity for this project in it. But I love, I reference this text post, I miss you a lot, you fucking geek ass nerd, all the time. And I've done that multiple times in this video for Isaac, because he is a geek ass nerd. These are the vibes I'm going for. So, I don't know, just like interesting, the mummy express, like this here, this particular photo, I saw this and this was the inspiration for having big motherfucking creatures be their transportation in this world. So I really need to like dig into the world. Not right now though. That's something that's going to come with exploring the book and like starting to write it, I think. As I said earlier, it just This book just seems like it wants to be one that's discovered as I'm writing it, which is apt because it is a discovering of an old ruins place. So maybe that's what it is. Anyways, this is what we have for vibes. I went in and found a lot of like D&D art and different things like that for the ruin pictures here. And of course we have Evie and Rick. And of course we have this beautiful man. I can't remember his fucking name. I know his, like, the actor's name is Oded Fair, but like I don't remember. I know he's the Magi. Do I remember his name? I know that it starts with an A. Anyways. Anyways, this is the vibe that I was going with. And a lot of the text posts that I like to find, I love text posts. One, because then it allows me to build like the mood boards and stuff like that, because I love the texture of having text on those as well. It allows me to do that, and it also allows me to think about the characters themselves and like little bits of like their personality that if they were in a modern sense, in the modern world, that's what they would be kind of talking like or would be like. I don't know. It's just a fun way to picture them and this whole situation. So anyways, this is what we've got. These original ones are more of just like what I was thinking when I was trying to pull ideas back when I first started this board. I also had, I don't know if you saw right at the top of this board, this photo from Disney's Ever After. Or Ever After? Is it Disney's Ever After? It's a Cinderella retelling with Drew Barrymore. This is the vibe that I want for my characters. Because Flo, she's the adventurer, she's the muscle, and I want her to like surprise people all the time because she's so muscly and strong and she can lift Isaac, which is also not a crazy thing because he's all bones. He's just a skinny guy. But yes, I love this vibe. I love this vibe so much. Anyways, also look at this fucking portrait. I saved it the other day. It's just stunning. This is like color vibes of the like, I don't know if any of you are like this if you're a writer, but like color vibes and moods and stuff like that. That is that. It's that one, and it's also this one down here that's like flower garden. Like this would be like the end vibe, you know? Anyways, so yes, I just wanted to show you my Pinterest board, the inspiration, the kind of images that I've been using and pulling from for things like my mood board, of course, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyways, go back to previous Jen, who is actually closing out this video. You have now witnessed Project Glass and its creation. You've met Ashlyn and Rose. You've met Ash and Rose, the characters of that one. And now you've heard a little bit about Project Mummy and how my brain is working for this one. Like I have in my head a very solid vibe of what I want to aim for. And I know that's going to come with writing the story and playing with the story and rewriting the story and editing the story. So that's really where I want to be in 2026 when I decide to let myself figure these out and to see where we get with these. But now I really want to start writing Sage's story next. I want to get back to it. I need to find my notebooks. I need to, hold on, I got one here. That's not the correct notebook, but I got a notebook. This is not the correct notebook. This is the Airmount Books notebook. Well, that's not it. That's not it. What did I do with it? That's a good question. What did I do with my Sage's stuff? Oh, here we are. Huzzah. And I got stuff all over it. Huzzah. And huzzah. Yay. I'm gonna dive back into this. I would really like a draft of this done by the end of 2025. What am I gonna do with this one? I think with this one, what's gonna happen next, there's gonna be a first writing vlog for getting back into it, planning it out, massaging the plot, getting more familiar with it, and then actually starting to write it. I do have like 10,000 words written or something in it at this point. Where am I at in Sage's story, Project Far Horizons? I have 9,313 words written in this project. I have a prologue and like 2.5 chapters written. I would really like to get back into this, to really flesh out things, to start diving into the mystery, and to really just see what I can create now that I have nothing else on my plate. This is my focus now. It feels good. It feels good to be a little free of the ideas that were roaming in my head. I know I did introduce Project Good Girls in the very first video, that is probably going to be one that I come back to at some other point, but it just kind of, like Project Mummy, just kind of has vanished out of my brain. As soon as I got into Project Glass, the other two projects were like, okay, cool, we're good, bye. Project Mummy, though, was fun, and because I love that movie so much, obviously I had to rewatch the movie, and that helped inspire some stuff, right? So one day I'm going to get back to these stories, I'm going to come back to them, and I'm going to write the fuck out of them, and it's going to be so much fun. But for now, we're gonna go visit my little green, I was about to call her a tiefling. She is technically a tiefling, but like, because Wizards of the Coast doesn't like us using their words for stuff. My little green fiendling who decided to go on an adventure and did not realize the shit she was about to get into. What was the hook that I created? A group of wannabe heroes find themselves neck deep in a job they were woefully unprepared for. One where the dead don't rest peacefully. So thank you so much for watching. Hang out, follow along, subscribe, turn the notifications on so you know when I got new things cooking up, but this is next. We're going into the big trilogy next. And this, I want to try to get published. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in another one very soon. Stay kind and keep on writing.